This is the Amazon rainforest, located in South America. A merciless forest that I will call home for the next 100 days, as I journeyed here with a very specific mission. You see, the Amazon is home to over 500 indigenous tribes, and one of them bear the secret of a special healing mushroom that can save my dying girlfriend's life. It'll be my mission to establish enough trust that they would show me this location, but not all of them are as friendly as it would seem. As I took an arrow to the chest, I went down, and I now just had to hope my ferry captain Pedro would get us somewhere safely. Definitely not how I wanted to start this trip. As my life was flashing before my eyes, I saw that one of the tribe elders had somehow found me, and he was now working tirelessly to save my life. I hope you are all ready to see me take on one of the hardest survival games ever made. Green Hell, Spirits of Amazonia. I am KrugerOps, and this is my story. As I woke up on a strange cliff, not knowing where I was or where the hell my boat was, I spotted some paintings on some rocks, and I knew I was in tribal territory, so I had to get the hell out of here. As I made it into a nearby cave and watching my every footstep carefully as I went through. Finally, I got to the boat, and now I just had to hope Pedro was still inside.
Poor Pedro.
But Pedro didn't make it, and the radio wasn't working.
It's broken.
So I made myself an axe, since I couldn't just leave his body like this. After chopping down all the materials needed, I prepared a ritual, and once it was done, I lit it on fire, saying goodbye to my captain.
Rest in peace.
And I wanted to get revenge on the tribesman that had taken his life. After hearing one nearby, I gave chase, and I went in to attack him. How does that feel? You guys killed Pedro! Come here, you stupid. Oh wait, there are lots of them than I thought. I'm not ready for this yet. I found a turtle, which meant a shell for water, and found a parrot nearby, which would be my dinner. So I placed myself down a campfire. I then started making the fire and lit up the campfire, and then went searching for a place to place down a bed. And once I went to gather materials, I heard something in the woods. What the hell is that? Oh no, it's a spider. Nope, I'm not sleeping on the ground anymore. After manning up, I made myself a water collector and finished constructing it, had my dinner, and then went to bed, calling it the first night. The next morning I wanted to go search for the chief that saved my life. I had my first encounter with some leeches and then continued searching through the woods, finding some bananas as well as my very first legend. Finally I made it to the tribe camp. With no subtitles, I had no idea what the chief was saying, and I imagined it went something like this.
I am the tribe elder. If you can capture women and children, heal some tribe members and complete some riddles, you will gain my trust, and we will have a wicked awesome ritual party. Kruger, now might also be a good time to tell the viewers about today's sponsor.
Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me, Chief. Introducing War Thunder, the most comprehensive military vehicle combat game ever made. Don't believe me? Well, check this out. You can play with more than 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships in some crazy combined arms PvP standdowns. Extremely well modeled vehicles, making this a truly immersive combat experience. Available on Xbox, PlayStation, Windows, and Mac. So if you're looking for a fast, action-packed, and more realistic tactical military combat experience, man, have you come to the right place. War Thunder offers immersive, intense PvP battles for all playstyles, including in-depth customization system for vehicles such as camouflage and more, and designed with one of the most dynamic, detailed vehicle damage models in gaming, and with this awesome damage x-ray that shows the exact damage caused when your vehicle is destroyed in immersive 4K graphics. Personally, I love camouflaging into my surroundings and then striking down unsuspecting victims. Play War Thunder now, and using my link you will get a massive free bonus pack including multiple premium vehicles, a premium account, boosters, and much more. But hurry, it's a limited time deal.
Now Kruger, get out of here so I can download the game and start playing.
So I wanted to get to work on earning the chief's trust, and after spotting a little boy nearby, I went in pursuit to grab him. Finally, after grabbing him, I returned him safely to the village and earned my first trust. I wanted to construct a boat to go after some campsites, but let's just say I squared off with the wrong tree and I got poisoned. Oh, that does not look good. And then chopped down the right tree that didn't bite back and constructed my very first bow. I then harvested some feathers to make the arrows needed, but my body was still fighting off the poison and I was extremely worried I wasn't gonna make it. After searching for some protein, I saw my health started picking back up. I also got to use my boat to collect some dinner for the night and then finally return back to my bed on the ground. But the next day I decided I couldn't live like this, so I made myself a mud pit and constructed myself some mud bricks. Placed down the supporting structure and then chopped down some trees to start building it up. And finally it was completed, so I filled in some walls, filled it in with mud bricks and went to wash up. I needed some more ash to make more mud, so I constructed a fire, got bitten by a spider and decided this time I would rather sleep it off. The next day as I woke up, I took a sip of water and then spotted I had some unwelcome guests. I was hoping they didn't see me, but unfortunately was spotted and was forced to engage.
Please get off my property, sir. You're not welcome here.
Luckily I managed to take one down and then took a shot to the chest and nearly died. I landed an amazing headshot and with the threats neutralized, I applied a bandage to my boo-boo.
Oh, that was another close call.
So I decided to take another brief afternoon nap so I could heal up before continuing some more adventures, chasing down some more kids and returning them safely back to the camp. Returning back to base to construct my roof and then placing down all the palm leaves to cover it up. Once done, I restarted my fire and then continued searching around for long sticks to fill in all the walls. I then started constructing myself a log bed and gathered all the material needed to finish it up. Finally, I wouldn't sleep on the ground anymore.
There were spiders for me.
The next morning I heard another boy nearby, so I grabbed him and returned him back to the chief. I then spotted an armadillo and these could be used for their shells for armor. But I needed to find some banana leaves and I went searching. That's when I stumbled upon my very first camp. This was way too close to my base, so I knew I had to engage and take all of them out so I would be left unfazed. I then also grabbed a tribal bow and then proceeded to destroying their campsite, earning myself more trust before grabbing a drink of water, killing another spider and then finally reigniting my fire. I then restocked on some arrows before filling in the door to my shelter and then completing the construction.
No, it's starting to rain. Well, you're dead.
So I went off to bed and the next morning my fire was dead and I had visitors yet again. After not being spotted, I finally found banana leaves and I could make my very first piece of armor. Once it was on, I went searching for yet another campsite. I heard some strange growls in the woods, but I thought it was coming from a pig. But boy was I wrong. Luckily with some quick reactions, the jaguar was taken care of. I bandaged myself up as he got me pretty good and then harvested up his body. After surviving, I went to wash myself up, but noticed my wound was infected, so I treated it with some maggots and went to tell the chief.
Chief, you won't believe it. I killed a jaguar all by myself.
And then treated myself to a nice steak. The next morning, I went out exploring through the woods when I stumbled upon a dead villager. When I went closer, I was opted to perform another ritual, so I gathered up all the material and completed the ritual and then lit it on fire, releasing his spirit, as well as earning some more trust.
Sorry, buddy. At least the jaguar didn't eat you.
I then went back to the chief's camp so I could cook up some dinner and hang out with one of the boys.
I don't know if the chief told you, but I defeated a jaguar.
He didn't seem too impressed, so I grabbed my dinner and slowly made my way back to camp. Bought myself some breakfast for the morning and then finally after skinning the little piggy, I got ready to wash up and then go to bed. The next morning I woke up to some more unexpected guests. This time I knew there had to be another camp nearby. So I ran into the woods. I lurked in the shadows as I followed them around, hoping that they would lead me back to their campsite, which they did. And thus I was able to take care of the local villagers, had a brief little mushroom snack which gave me food poisoning, but I wouldn't let that stop me as I destroyed the village, harvested the bodies and went to wash up. I then went searching for some mushrooms so I could heal myself up, but stumbled upon another armadillo. So I went chasing after as this could give me more armor, but it led to another little boy in the woods. I was finally able to grab him and return him safely to the chief. I then went searching around the garden for some mushrooms and was finally able to heal up.
Psst, little boy, did you hear the tale of the man that killed the jaguar?
Oh boy, get over it already. There's plenty more of these to come. As I made myself some more mud pits, I continued constructing my little shelter. But the mud was simply not enough. I needed a lot more fires. So I decided to construct 3 this time in the hope that I would speed up my charcoal process. But of course it started to rain. Once I woke up I stoked the fires yet again, but hey, this was rain season.
Can it stop raining already?
The next morning I found another armadillo, so I slaughtered him up for his shell and then went grabbing myself some banana leaves so I could construct myself another piece of armor. I then relit all my fires and went searching for some piggies that I could cook up. After killing 2 nearby ones, grabbing all their meat, I placed it on top of the fire and had it sizzling. I also decided to make myself a drying rack, and that way I could preserve my raw meat for longer. But I had lost daylight and was only able to finish it up by the next day. And despite that it started raining again, my fires were done and I was able to construct some more mud blocks and then completed 2 more walls of my nice little shelter. I went to briefly wash up, and once I was done I sat out on another adventure, grabbing myself some water as I was thirsty, but I heard some more growls behind me. This time it was an alligator. Luckily I managed to remain calm and I started pelting it with some arrows, and he went down in a matter of no time. So I harvested up the body, gave myself a quick scrub in the lake, and then went searching for some fruits as I was running really low on carbs. But that's when I ran into another dead villager. So I chopped down some trees and then collected all the leaves needed to complete the ritual, lit it up, and released the spirit. Finally I found some fruit and was able to replenish my carbs, hung up some of the alligator meat, and then continued building and washing myself up before going to bed. The next morning went back to the anthill to grab yet another armadillo and construct another piece of armor. Once done, I made my way back to the swamp to collect some more alligator meat, as it turned out to be actually quite tasteful. On my way back I discovered a strange location, a massive boat. So of course curiosity got the better of me and I went over to investigate, swimming down through the holes of the sunken ship and then finding a strange crate with a golden artifact. No idea what it was for. I also found some iron ore, some bone, and then probably the most important thing yet, a map. And boy was this place massive. My shortcut home led to my first main camp, so I killed the tribesman and freed up the slaved woman.
You're free, lady.
I found yet another legend, destroyed the remaining camp, and then made a bed so I could rest up for the evening. The next morning I made my way back to camp. I enjoyed a refreshing sip of water and then got to work to make some more mud bricks to complete my walls. Finally I was nearly done, but I needed one more set of bricks. So after washing up, I caught myself another piggy so I could have a nice afternoon lunch. After slaying him, I went back to the chief.
Hey, the lady's here. Chief, I hope you like your new girlfriend.
I then cooked up the little piggy meat, as these were great for protein as well as fats. I then went back to base to finish up the last wall, but it was raining the entire day. It was definitely the wet season of the Amazon. So I decided to go to bed. The next morning I wanted to explore some more unexplored areas of the map. So I continued running through the woods. Then I heard the growl of another jaguar. But I was the self-proclaimed jaguar slayer, so I wasn't scared at all. Finally I had it in my sights and I started to engage.
Mr. Kitty Cat, don't you know who I am? Oh, come on. Sure. Oh, damn it.
After harvesting the body and patching up my arm, I continued wandering through the woods. But I ended up wandering straight onto a snake and I got bitten. Luckily I was able to take my revenge, find another cave nearby, but I was also poisoned, which meant I urgently needed water. I ran into a scorpion and took care of it and continued searching for water. But with nothing inside and the fever slowly draining my energy, I knew I was about to pass out. And down I went. The problem with sleeping on the ground is you wake up with a worm inside you, and you now have to surgically remove it using a bone needle and patching it up with a bandage. I was still in dire need of some water as I rushed back to base, making it just in time to have a refreshing sip and went to bed. The next day I went searching for some more women and children, but ran into some more tribe members that I had to take care of. After pelting the second one with an amazing headshot, I knew there was a camp nearby, so I proceeded in with caution and started destroying it, earning myself even more trust. I continued my search and found a cave with another legend inside.
It's a recipe for the sacred figure.
See, with the legends, you have to collect all the stones and then solve the riddle. Confused and lost, I continued my search when I heard the screams of another boy overhead. That's when I spotted a massive land bridge, so I made my way up and gave chase after the little scared boy.
Here, child, stop running from me. I'm just gonna take you to the camp.
I listened to the little boy singing the entire way back. I got close to camp and spotted a second child, so I went to drop off the first and then went to grab the second one. Returned him to the chief as well, and then I enjoyed my jaguar meat over the nice pleasant campfire. The next day I was back out on the search, searching around for any legends, wounded tribe members, women or children. I stumbled upon some more unexplored land, and this was also met by more tribe members. I heard the hissing of a snake and was able to sidestep and then started pelting them with arrows, landing perfect headshots as well as dodging their arrows. They were guarding this wounded tribe member. I was able to heal him up and earn myself even more trust points. As I went back to the warriors to gather their arrows, I got jump scared by an alligator that landed a pretty nice bite. Luckily I was quick to react and I pelted him with arrows, and after harvesting the bodies I tried to wash myself up, but for some reason it wasn't going down. I was gonna be a dirty little boy sneaking through caves as I found yet another camp. This group was definitely a bit more organized and were attacking in formation. I definitely had to take caution as I took a serious knock to the head by one of them and then finally ended his life. I proceeded to destroying the camp when I heard some more scouts nearby and I was forced to engage, trying to spear one to death and then taking an arrow from another. Finally I was able to land the headshot needed and then took a leap of faith over a cliff edge. Being as dirty as I was, I for some reason developed a fever and I was now in serious need of water. So desperate that I drank dirty water, and boy was this costly. I went down yet again. Waking up, I had worms that I had to take care of, but I didn't have enough bones, so harvesting another piggy gave me the final bone needed. I now just needed to find some more bandages, so I went searching. I heard another little boy nearby, so I gave chase as I didn't want to lose him while I was searching for bandages. I placed him safely inside a cave and then continued my search, drinking even more dirty water and then finally finding the mushrooms needed to get rid of the parasites. And not long after, finding the leaves needed for bandages and then going back to grab the little boy. This was by far my farthest I've been from base.
If you don't shut up, I'm gonna throw you over this cliff, I swear. Okay?
Feeling hungry and tired from not sleeping properly for a full day, insomnia started to kick in. But finally I knew where I was, so I dropped off the little boy by the chief, removed all the leeches that were suckling on my blood, and then cooked myself a very nice relaxing meal.
Well, look at you guys being a nice happy family. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed.
So I drank some water and caught up on all the missed sleep that I had. The next day I was adamant to find more legends.
They went looking for it.
So I started searching high and low for anything I could possibly find. I stumbled upon a cave with some more tribal paintings and I knew there were camps nearby. Finally I found the scouts and I quickly took care of them and then stumbled upon another camp. Took care of all the local villagers and then destroyed their campsite. Once done I continued exploring when I heard more cries of a woman. So I took care of even more tribesmen and freed her up.
Don't worry, lady. You're free from the bad men now.
I stumbled upon yet another campsite, but I was completely dehydrated and quickly losing health. After breaking my axe, I realized one of my wounds got infected, and I was now in trouble yet again. As I ended up passing out, being unable to make it back to base, of course I woke up with some more worms. Luckily I had the bones and bandages that I needed and I wasn't too far from base. So I enjoyed a sip of water and rested up, and the next morning things got worse. Another snake bite. This game was truly brutal. After grabbing some food, I found another legend and then went back to base to sleep off my fever. Once I woke up, I still had a small fever, but I was also hungry, so I caught myself a piggy and washed up, and just before getting to rest, I ended up passing out within seconds of going to sleep. So again woke up with a worm that I had to get rid of and then bandage myself up. The rain then forced me to go have dinner by the chief, and then once my tummy was full, I went back to bed. The next morning, after a refreshing sip of water, I heard another boy nearby, so I went to grab him and dropped him off by the chief. I had now filled the trust meter halfway. I then stumbled upon another dead tribe member, so I prepared the body for the ritual that would lie ahead, gathering all the materials and then starting the fire to release his spirit. Shortly after, finding another wounded tribe member that I was able to heal up and then finally call it a night. The next day I returned back to the main camp. This time I was a lot better rested and a lot better supplied on food and water. After taking care of the entire camp and taking out the local nearby villagers, I decided I would use this space to set up a temporary shelter. That way I have another one across this side of the map for my future adventures. Once done, I made myself a bed and then got a good night's rest in. The next morning I made myself a campfire as well as a water collector and went to gather up some food. I also stumbled upon a cave that had another legend as well as another wounded tribe member, but my bandages weren't working, so I needed to find a different plan. I then tried snacking on one, but it gave me food poisoning, and then finally found the tobacco plant, and I hoped this would do the job. And then after resting up, I ignited my fire and enjoyed some dinner as well as water before resting up for the night. The next morning I made my way back to the wounded tribe member, but still no luck. I continued searching the cave, finding yet another legend and hearing some locals nearby, so I knew there was another camp. Finally finding it, these guys were a lot more aggressive and really gave me a run for my money. But luckily I was able to regain my composure and take all of them out as well as get myself dinner, but the rain prevented me from cooking it up and getting the ash needed for another type of bandage. Finally, the next morning I reignited the fires, enjoyed my morning breakfast while I waited for the fires to die down so I could collect the ash. Finally having it, I prepared the bandage and made my way back to the tribe member. But something was lurking and waiting for me in the woods. As I searched around, I finally spotted it, a puma. This guy was a lot quicker than the jaguars, but luckily I was able to get the headshot needed. I then applied a bandage to my leg and harvested up the puma body. I applied some maggots to prevent infection and then made my way back to the wounded tribe member. And finally the ash bandages seemed to do the job. I still had quite a fever, so I rushed home to wash up and then went to bed. The next morning finding a second wounded tribe member in one of the caves and healing him up as well. Then make my way back to base, grabbing myself a nice lunch and cooking it up by the chief. I then went searching for another armadillo so I could grab his shell and replenish my armor, and then went exploring further when I stumbled upon this strange cave. This was called Snake's Pass and it led to another legend. And on my way back I ran into another dead tribe member, prepared the ritual and set the spirit free. And I then went back to have a good night's rest. That day I was more adamant than ever to finally finish up my first legend.
Seems that one night, a family tragedy happened.
I needed just one more, but stumbled upon another dead tribe member, so the ritual continued. And then finally I found the last required legend. I now had to slay the white demon, so of course I had to get some good sleep before the fight. The next day I decided to grab some more armadillo armor and made my way over to the swamp to search around. I went back to the ferry, made myself some more arrows in preparation, and as the sun set I started searching around, feeling terrified that this massive beast could come around at any corner and attack me. But finally the white beast was in my sight, and I got ready to release some arrows. A couple of headshots and he went down, a lot easier than what I was expecting.
This should help me gain their trust.
Going to sleep, I then returned to the chief the next day and he explained to me that I was now very close to having his full trust. I had already reached 800 points and I was just a short way to go. I found another turtle and decided to grab the shell and then search for more water legends. Some more exploring and nearly running into more tribesmen that led me straight onto another dead tribe member. So I prepared the ritual and released another spirit. Exploring the nearby cave led to yet another legend.
Stolen.
And with just 2 more to go, I made my way back to the camp, but that's when I ran into another little boy that I decided to grab and return back to camp. Dropping him off safely meant I was just 100 points away. Going to sleep for the night and grabbing some breakfast the next morning and then searching around for the legends. Finding yet another, and then searching around for mushrooms for my food poisoning. Further exploring that led to another main camp that I decided to destroy, and I would spend the night here. So I built myself yet another shelter, constructed it with the materials from the village, and then once it was done, I made myself a bed as well and went to sleep. The next day restocking on food as well as water, and once done, I finally found the final cave where the final legend needed. Another leap of faith and then returning back to base so I could wash up, remove some more leeches and have a quick brief nap before going out to solve the riddle. This led me to 3 crying waterfalls and a cave down below. I then made my way through the cave and dropped off my golden artifact.
Well, that should do it.
Lighting it on fire.
Oh, no wonder it was stolen.
And made my way back to the chief for a quick inspirational message and then got ready to attempt my very first ritual as I gulped down the magical soup of mushrooms. And thus it began.
Oh, what the hell? Oh, this place is gorgeous.
The challenge was to grab balls of water and then grow a plan to heal a nearby wounded tribe member while defending off spurred jaguars from eating him. But of course, me being the notorious jaguar slayer that I was, this was an absolute walk in the park. Luckily, these jaguars were a lot slower and their attention was also focused on him. Finally, I grabbed the last water bubble needed and I dropped it down, transitioning me to the next phase. Making my way through the bioluminescent jungle and then finding another wounded tribe member. I nearly messed up with a bubble in my hand. I wasn't able to attack, but luckily got the puma just in time. So I killed some more spurred animals, grabbed some more water bubbles, and then finished killing the remaining ones until there was enough time to grab the final bubble needed, healing up the tribe member and then transitioning into the final stage of the challenge. Yet another bioluminescent jungle with another wounded tribe member, growing up another healing plant and taking care of the flaming pumas that were a lot more on this final wave. Keeping calm under pressure, I finally had the final bubble and I completed the challenge, ending the ritual.
Oh wait, is that it? Nice.
Once I woke up, I had no idea where I was, but I had a strange toy with me. So I grabbed it and started tracking through the jungles, trying to figure out where the hell I actually was. Running into a little scorpion problem,
You stupid.
and now being poisoned, I was in dire need of some water. But the water here had an issue. It was completely poisoned. So I grabbed one of the toxic waste drums, and since I was about to pass out, I quickly tried to construct myself a bed, and luckily was able to sleep just in time before passing out. The next morning I continued following the river and then spotted another tribal camp. This was where the Ungarasa stayed.
This village seems friendly.
So I went to introduce myself to the chief.
Chief, sir, can't you just phone your friend? I've already gone through this whole trust issue with him.
I then grabbed some polluted water and tried to boil it, but stupid me drank it by mistake.
Disgusting.
And I was now severely poisoned. So I constructed myself a nearby bed and I went to sleep, hoping I would sleep off the poisoning. But it didn't fully work. I was now hungry, thirsty, and completely deprived of carbs. So after grabbing a little piggy and cooking it up, I made myself a water collector, washed up in the river, getting myself a rash, and the next morning the situation was looking extremely grim. I had completely burned my food, so I needed to grab new ones. Luckily this time I was able to cook up, and I also heard some thunder. I was so excited I ate raw food, and then finally I was able to heal myself up, drink some coconut water, and then try to do something about the polluted water source, collecting all the toxic waste drums that I could find. But some of them were right on top of water and I ended up landing in it, earning myself an infection and poisoning yet again. Luckily the camp wasn't far away and I now had a fever, so I rushed over, drank some water and I went to bed. But I still needed to clean myself up, otherwise the infection would get worse.
The chief, sir, this place sucks. Where's your clean water?
I found some tribal markings and more polluted water. That's when I also spotted a villager and I knew I was close to a camp. I waited for them to leave and then rushed over to free the slaved woman. At least if I died, I would have taken down another village and freed some more slaves. This was a massive camp, so it took ages to break all the structure, but finally with the village taken care of, I continued my search for water. I found a dried up riverbed and I knew I was close. Finally, I spotted some water as well as a strange structure behind. After washing up, I went in to investigate. This place came with a load of supplies, some pills, some food, a strange letter that I couldn't read. This seemed to be some form of a drug lab and I managed to find a map as well.
Wonderful.
At least now I could somehow try to figure out where I was. Once I had my bearings, I collected some more supplies and then also spotted a nearby jeep which had an antenna. This would definitely be useful to fixing my boat. I also found a nearby machete and then searched for a place to live. With all the riverbeds dried up, I knew it was now the dry season, so I started to set up camp nearby. This place came with a ton of bamboo, so I decided to make the overall frame using the bamboo sticks and rope nearby. I also constructed a mud roof as I wanted to be off the ground this time, so I filled in a ladder and then constructed a fire so I could start gathering up the ash I would need for mud, as well as boiling some water. I then got back to farming when I heard someone running through the woods. He wasn't interested in me, but he started to attack my campfire.
The hell do you think you're doing, sir?
With my play still incomplete, I wanted to build a bed, but ended up stepping on another snake. Quickly tried to rush to finish up the bed, but I was out of energy and I went down. Waking up, I quickly rushed to finally finish it up, and once done, I went back to the river to wash myself up and then called it a night. Even though I still had worms, that would be a problem for the next day as I surgically removed them and then bandaged up my arm. Now I could finally get to finishing up my structure. So I began by placing down some mud bricks and then constructing the remaining frame on the second level. Once done finishing up my mud pits and then going around to collect all the mud needed to fill them in. I then enjoyed a quick bath in the river before adding the water needed to start mixing up the mud bricks. Once done, I filled in the bricks that would add as the floor of my second story. I then enjoyed another quick bath and decided to go to bed to continue my work the next day. I started by placing even more fire pits and then igniting them so I could speed up the ash production. I cooked myself up some breakfast and had a quick look at what I learned with the bamboo sticks. First was the blowpipe used to trank out animals and place them in an animal pen, so of course I had to place one down and start building it. Gathering up all the sticks needed and then followed by the rope. Finishing up with a little gate and then of course I had to test it out.
Oh man, this is gonna be awesome.
Next up was the water as well as the feeding trough. And once constructed, I started building the medieval frog stretcher that would require me grabbing a live frog and stretching it for its poison. Things didn't go as planned.
No, little froggy, come back here. I got poisoned for nothing.
So I went to sleep with my fever and the next day I went to grab some more breakfast, grabbing all the meat and then starting yet another fire. Once my tummy was all filled up, I continued the mud production, making even more bricks and then filling them in. Finally, my floor was done as well as my feeding trough. Now it was time to start constructing my bed so I no longer had to sleep on the floor.
Come on, please.
I went to go grab some bananas so I could refill up my carbs. After which I completed the top structure of the frame, and once done I placed down some walls as well as the ceiling and finished the ceiling by that night and went to bed. The next morning completing up my walls as well as the door frame and adding a little balcony so I could have a longer room. Added in the final mud bricks and then started building myself a big boy fire pit. Once done I grabbed yet another poison dart frog and this time I was smart enough to place it down correctly, drink some medication and then went to call it a night. The last part missing now were some fruits, so I spent the entire day searching around the nearby jungle to gather up all the fruit I could find. I then started to construct all the darts that I would need and then filled up all the troughs with food as well as with water so my new pets could feel at home. I then drained the frog's poison and added it to my darts, and since I had horrible aim, I decided to rest up before going to search the next morning. And after filling up my tummy, I was ready to go out. As I went in pursuit to look for a little piggy and then lined up my blowgun, taking a direct hit. Chasing after, I was able to tie him up and then slowly took him back to my pen and then untied him.
Hey little buddy, welcome to your new home. Let's say we go find you another friend.
So I went in search of another piggy, took another direct hit, but this little one had superpowers.
Oh, what the hell? Alright, now I'm gonna untie you. What the hell? You're so stupid.
Finally, I managed to get him down inside the pen and untie him. Now yes, having two pets would be a huge responsibility, but I absolutely loved them and I was feeling lonely, so they would be my companions. It was now also time to get myself some fruit as I was running low on carbs, and that's when I spotted another village, so I went over to take care of the local tribesmen.
Where do you think you're going?
I also found this very cool axe and I immediately put it to use to destroy the camp. This thing was amazing, even though it made me tired very quickly. Running from the reinforcements, I grabbed myself some lunch and then tended to the needs of my pets. I decided to make some more mud so I could make some more mud bricks, as these pets definitely needed second troughs. I then tended to my own needs before going off to bed.
What the hell? I just fed you guys.
I then went out to grab some more fruit so I could refill up all the troughs. Boiled some water and then filled the watering trough. So I constructed the second set of troughs and then went out to grab some more fruits, but got bitten by yet another snake. Luckily I still had some painkillers and then I grabbed myself a lunch and then spent the rest of the day completely filling up the pet's troughs so I could go out exploring the next day. I decided I would work on some nearby polluted rivers, that way I could see if my pets could survive numerous days without me. But I heard some growls and I got ambushed by a jaguar that nearly ended my life. Luckily I got the headshot needed.
Man, that doesn't look good at all.
I applied some maggots to the infected wound and then continued building the fire, only to bandage myself up and then finally constructed the fire. But because of the infection, I didn't have the energy to start it, so I ran back to base as quick as I could, barely making it in time to rest up. Finally returning to light it up.
itself.
and then making my way back home to cook myself some dinner and go to bed. The next day after another fruit run, I returned back to step on another snake and was forced to use my final painkiller. Also named my piggies McFly and McBacon after finally gaining enough trust, and then cleared another river of the toxic waste.
It may take a while. This place will be safe.
After having more confidence my pets could live a day without me, I went to save some more tribe members.
Now you eat your charcoal, you'll feel better.
Rewarded by even more trust from saving another tribe member, I made my way back home, only to get bitten by yet another snake.
What the hell? What's wrong with you? What range do you have?
And filled with poison and a fever, I barely made it back home in time to rest up and sleep it off. The next morning I filled up the troughs yet again so I could leave my pets for another day as I went to search for more toxic waste. But one of the containers was on a rock and I was forced to jump in the water to grab it. And then after grabbing it, I spotted yet another legend. So I proceeded to taking it and then rushing back so I could make myself a bed to rest off the fever. Just as I took a quick nap, I finally heard some thunder signaling the start of wet season yet again. Forced to rest up as I was too tired to start the fire, I was in serious need of water and food, so I rushed over to grab some piggies and then cooked it up by the chief. I was struggling to keep myself alive, but I was also super worried about my pets, so I rested up one more time and then rushed back home. Healed myself from food poisoning and then rushed back, finally to see they were okay. So I placed myself down a water collector and then heard the noise that would break my heart.
No, why? You guys had water, you had food, everything. Oh, McBacon, McFly. Seriously, I don't get it.
Rest in peace, McFly and McBacon. Even though you guys were a nuisance to take care of, you will be missed greatly. Feeling broken-hearted and in disbelief, I decided to go to bed to sleep off the feelings of sadness. The next day I decided I would cheer myself up by going to look for more children, finding one and then returning him back to the chief. I then followed along the riverbed to see if I could clean up the water source, but heard another child, so I went in pursuit. He led me straight through the poisoned water, but finally I was able to grab him and return him safely.
Stupid child, you got me sick.
After a sip of water and going to bed, I wanted to clean up the water since there was now more children nearby. Finally finished the fire and having just enough energy to light it.
Life will return to this place one day.
I then went to bed and the next morning wanted to keep my mind occupied from my dead pet, so I discovered another legend and then shortly after found another. After grabbing it, I wanted to make my way across the water, but from some misstepping I landed directly in it. Fighting off another infection, I finally found the source, so I started collecting all the toxic waste, but I was too tired to make the fire, so I made my way back home. But before I even reached the chief's camp, I ended up passing out. Luckily just above the bridge, drowning wouldn't have been fun. After removing the worms, I went to rest off the infection and then finally some more thunder, which meant I could finally replenish my thirst. I also went to hunt some nearby piggies and then decided to cook them up by the chief. That's when I spotted he actually had food rations for me.
Oh, wow, you've been holding out on me, sir.
I went to search for some mushrooms to heal up some food poisoning and then cooked myself some dinner before going to bed. The next day I continued my search of polluted water, chopping down some trees and then making the fires and igniting them.
Just give it some time. Nature will heal itself.
I then went searching for another, but a leap of faith went wrong and I landed in the water. Luckily I was able to grab all the waste, constructed the fire and then finished igniting it.
It may take a while. This place will be safe again.
I then spotted another cave nearby that led to another legend and then made myself a bed to rest up. I still couldn't bring myself to head home, so I decided to search for more legends, finding one after another, and then finally proceeded to finding yet another wounded tribe member.
Buddy, you feel better? You all good now?
I was quickly losing daylight, but after spotting another tribe member, I knew there was a camp nearby, so I went to kill both of them up and then destroy the camp to make myself a little shelter. The next morning I broke the final piece and earning more trust, and then constructed myself a water collector and campfire. After washing up I found another legend as well as some tribes members that were protecting a strange location with a little boy that wanted a toy. And he explained to me only then he would let down the rope, so I searched around for some more legends.
But when the jungle sheds its tears...
With my first riddle solved, I went to grab myself some dinner, but the rain was preventing me from cooking it up. The next morning I finally prepared my food, and once fed I continued exploring, finding yet another campsite and getting rid of the locals before starting to destroy it. I then replenished my arrows and found one of the most daring legends yet.
This is a dare to challenge the invincible Hakra.
I wasn't intimidated at all and continued searching for the remaining series of the legends that led to yet another campsite. So I proceeded to destroying the camp and getting rid of a nearby snake before making a bed as well as a little campfire to cook myself up some dinner before calling it a night. The next morning I continued my search for some more legends, finding yet another and then continued exploring around. When I stumbled upon this amazing viewing platform and could truly take in how massive this place was. And I couldn't believe that I already survived more than 50 days. But after finding the lair of the beast, I knew that could end any time. I also heard some more villages that led me to yet another main camp. So I went in and started to destroy it, thinking that I would again set up another temporary shelter. After earning the trust, I continued exploring around, searching high and low for whatever legends I could find. I then stumbled upon a very rare creature, a baby tapir with a unique skin that was part of one of the legends.
I'm sorry, buddy.
And then found yet another pond of polluted water, so I collected the drums of toxic waste, but since it was already pitch black, I decided to construct myself a little bed so I could finish it up in the morning. After feeling well rested, I completed the campfire and then ignited it.
One day, everything will be back to normal.
I spotted another cave and inside was another wounded tribe member.
Here's your charcoal, you feel better?
I continued exploring and stumbled upon another campsite, so I took care of the local villages and destroyed the camp. Nearby I also found this amazing waterfall that led to another legend, and then once I stepped down I ended up bruising up my leg, so I had to bandage up and then enjoyed a stroll down the beach when I spotted this little fishing pier, but unfortunately there was nothing interesting, but I still decided to set myself up another temporary shelter. The next morning I filled up on food and water and then swam across to the opposite side of the shore. This led to yet another cave where I found another wounded tribe member that I was able to heal up. And after feeding him some charcoal, I had now reached halfway mark of 500 trust points. The cave also had a pile of dirt that revealed a rusty axe. And after grabbing it, I saw yet another legend and then went to grab myself some dinner and went to wash up my hands before cooking it up and calling it yet another day. The next morning I stumbled upon yet another camp, so I got rid of the local inhabitants and once they were all dealt with, destroyed the campsite. I then continued my search for the last few legends and hearing a little boy nearby, I proceeded to grabbing him and running across the island to safely return him back to the chief. I also spotted the silhouettes of a drum and collecting a lot and adding the skin and rope, it was done.
Looks good to me.
And boy did it make the chief happy. And I was now just 300 points from my goal, so I decided to rest up and the next morning fill myself up and then go explore. I found another boy that led me to another wounded tribe member, and after healing him up, I went to grab the little boy and return him to the chief. I also found yet another village, and boy was I getting good at my headshots. After destroying the village, I stumbled upon another polluted water source, grabbed all the toxic waste and made a bed to sleep down my fever. By the evening I finished the fire and ignited it,
Life will return to this place one day.
and then went to rest up. The next morning I went to grab the final legend of the notorious Hakra.
Day, a beast will appear.
As I read through the clues, it required me to collect some turtle meat and placing it as a sacrifice.
This be the first offering.
Since this challenge would take 3 days, I decided to grab myself some dinner and construct a campfire at my nearby bed. But due to rain, I went to sleep on an empty stomach and the next morning wandered upon yet another polluted lake. After nearly breaking my leg, I decided to bandage myself up and then looked for the source, collecting all the toxic waste as I went. Despite the fever, I continued building up the campfire and then lit it up.
Okay, just give it some time. Nature will heal itself.
I was still in dire need of some food, so I wanted to get some rest, but it just continued raining, so I knew the only place I would be able to cook up some meat would be back at the chief. Hearing some growls in the woods, I knew something was waiting as I took a headshot on yet another jaguar, ate some blue mushrooms to give me just enough energy so I would safely make it back to camp and cook up the meat. Then stumbling upon yet another polluted lake, and after nearly breaking my legs yet again, I was forced to swim through the water to grab the final legend that I needed.
There's a story about a father.
And now despite my fever, I knew I needed to grab the rest needed and then rush over with some turtle meat to complete the final sacrifice.
And this should do it. Tomorrow, I'll face the beast.
So I went to get some much needed rest and the next morning decided to solve the water riddle as well. finding a bracelet underneath and then noticing I was being eaten alive by piranhas that shredded through my armor, breaking a total of 2 pieces as I went over to wait for the beast, and luckily he didn't arrive. But by that evening, I heard the growls and got ready to face him off. A black jaguar as I took the headshot.
Someone told me that this trip would include killing mythical beasts.
It was much easier than expected. So early the next morning, I made my way back to the chief to inform him that I had completed all the challenges that he set out for.
Told you I was the Jaguar Slayer.
Finally, after telling him all of this, the ritual was ready. I had earned his trust. As I prepared the campfire and ignited the ball, I got ready to gulp another batch of the special mushroom stew, beginning my second ritual. A ritual that would require me to kill animals with the correct corresponding weapon. First up was a giant turtle that I had to spear before transitioning to the next stage. Next up was a giant lizard that I had to axe to death. So I went searching for him and took him out. And then finally I had to kill a jaguar using a bow.
Great.
Didn't think this thing would be this tiny, but okay.
And with that, completing the ritual and then waking up with another little toy in my hand and immediately thinking of the boy that would require this for me to pass. Tracking through the jungle and hiding from some natives before going to rest up at my nearby little shelter.
Oh, little toyless child, look what I have.
And it seemed to do the job as he dropped down the rope.
It worked.
I proceeded to making my way back up and then tracking through a cave, not knowing where I was. Making my way through another section of the jungle and then stumbling upon an abandoned airport that contained another map as well as a bunch of goodies. And this time it came with 2 maps. I then wandered upon a massive cliff, and after enjoying the view I spotted a rope where I was able to climb down, and then shortly after discovered another campsite where I went to introduce myself to the chief.
I am Kruger, also known as the Jaguar Slayer, and I'm here to earn your trust.
I also found a legend right by the camp and then went to sleep on one of the chief's hammocks. The next morning I stumbled upon a sad local fisherman who I had to make some bamboo bows for, earning the chief's trust and hopefully making him a little less sad. I continued searching for a base location and found a pathway leading down to a massive chasm and proceeded to climb down with caution.
Man, that's a long way down.
I also broke this blue gem, not knowing if I was supposed to, and then continued down the cave, leading to my very first totem that I had to construct. But I needed some bones, and luckily some nearby villagers volunteered as tribute. So after destroying their camp, I decided to set myself up a small shelter here, building myself a water collector and fire pit, and then heading to complete the totem. I still had a few hours of daylight left, so I went searching for some legends and found 2 nearby, as well as an alligator that tried to sneak up on me, so I decided to call it a night. Knowing I would have to move around between 2 maps, I decided to construct myself a mud pit so I could start making myself a storage bin. That way I could drop off some of my loot and not be too heavy when I move around. I rescued some more slave women at a local main camp, and after it was done I proceeded to destroying it and dropping down a second bed. The next morning I completed yet another totem and stumbled upon another legend that also had a fishing trap. Nearly got snuck upon by another gator.
See you later, alligator.
I then helped another sad fisherman and shortly after discovered a cave that contained the final part of the first legend.
Seas stuck together.
But this required some bait from elements I didn't have, so I enjoyed some more gator meat and the next morning made my way back to the chief. But I got distracted when I found another cave with another legend inside. After grabbing it I stumbled upon another totem, but it required the skull, and unfortunately this little guy got away from me. I did however grab another legend and then went back to the camp so I could grab one of the resources of the fishing bait before resting up. The next morning I went back to grab the skull that I needed to finish up the totem. Once constructed I found yet another legend and decided I would make my way back to the abandoned airfield and search further there. Not long after climbing the rope I found the first one and then stumbled upon yet another campsite. So I murdered some more of the locals, took a shot to the chest, but luckily I was victorious and I destroyed their little camp. I then also made a short trip to their neighbors, and after landing some amazing headshots they were all doubtful. So I also destroyed their camp, grabbed another legend and shortly after another before deciding I would spend the night at the local abandoned airport. I also spotted this modern axe that I nearly missed and then went to sleep. The next morning stumbled upon yet another legend, and shortly after another, and then yet another before I had to balance on a very thin tree before grabbing the final one for the day. I found another small camp and then engaged with the locals, and one of them definitely put up a bit of a fight, but I managed to take them out and also tested my new modern axe to destroy the village.
Yeah, I see you there, buddy. Are you gonna lead me to your friends?
Which he did, but this was probably a fight I shouldn't engage in, as I was running seriously low on energy.
Okay, maybe mistakes were made.
I tried to do the best that I could, but I was taking way too long to reload between arrow shots, and they were dealing some serious damage. I was definitely in trouble, as I also heard him call for some reinforcements.
Tactical retreat! Tactical retreat!
I quickly bandaged myself up, but I was in dire need of some sleep, so I took the risk to slay the final member, destroy the camp, and construct myself a bed. Healed up my infected wounds, and just as I heard more scouts approach, I was able to rest up.
Oh, please let me sleep first.
The next morning I made my way to another one of my nearby campsites so I could prepare some food and water for the trips that lied ahead. I kept getting distracted by some tribes members, even interrupting my beauty sleep.
Sorry, sir, you die for this.
Finally being able to rest up, it was now time to kick things into overdrive. No Yamahaka was going to stand in my way of collecting the final legends and helping some more fishermen.
Hey, buddy, look, there's a fishy. Well done, you finally caught one.
I constructed yet another totem and slayed some more Yamahaka tribe members, feeling more determined than ever.
Why's your head shaking? Are you still alive?
Destroying their campsites and fixing up my armor, as well as taking care of all my dietary needs. Constructing even more totems and stocking up on more armor before making my way to another main camp, where I heard the cries of more slaved women that I was able to free up and then destroyed the village. Once done collecting more legends and then constructing myself more temporary shelters where I could rest up. Finally, the next day I found some honey and I was able to make the bait, continuously searching for the last remaining legends as well as trying to help out any sad fishermen. Finally, I found yet another totem and I was getting close to having all the points that I was needing. That evening I found yet another, but I was out of bones, and luckily a nearby gator volunteered to give me his bones after spearing him to death.
Thank you, Mr. Gator.
The next day, crafting the last bows needed to help the little fisherman. I had now gained enough trust points that I only needed to solve the remaining riddles. So I went in search for the final legends, and that's when I found it. All of them now solved, and I now just needed to complete the quests. As I made my way back to the chief to enjoy a nice dinner and then heading back home, as I thought I would start by the fish challenge first. So I raced it up. The next morning I placed down my bait, and with no luck in the afternoon, it was finally there by that evening.
Yeah, you couldn't resist my tasty bait, huh?
Next up I had to make a pottery table, as I had to craft some mud monkeys.
Prettiest, but it should work.
Finally, after baking them, I had to construct 3 different kinds of monkeys using some selective resources, as I continued constructing my monkeys and then went to drop them off.
Good place for a guard. Last guard took his post.
I then had to search for a campsite that had 4 pictures of the blue gem locations.
Okay, great. Now I know exactly where they used to meet.
After studying the pictures and remembering I had already taken one of them down, I had to find the remaining 3. And after seeing the pictures, I knew that one was located near the chief's campsite, and after taking it down, I got ready to search for the rest, navigating through the cliffs and then finding yet another one. I then traveled the next day back to the swamps and studied the picture to find the final one's location.
The last one.
With just one more quest left, I wouldn't let any tribesmen stand in my way, as I made my way over to a cave,
Pieces of obsidian.
studying corpses for some clues
More obsidian.
of the recipe of an ancient Aztec weapon,
Another piece of wood.
creating yet another corpse, and then finding the final missing piece as I dove down into the water to search the final clue. And now, armed with a recipe, I needed to track down some obsidian, but on a side of the map with no obsidian anywhere to be found, I knew I had to make another plan. I thought I might still have some at the camp I made by the drug lab, but after a day and a half trip, I only found one piece, but luckily the next day, finding some in a cave nearby and then starting the long journey back home, only to get poisoned by a spider, squared off with a puma, and then shortly after got bitten by a snake.
Are you serious? You stupid.
With just a grain of energy left, finally making it back to the chief, making the Aztec weapon, and then went to place it down. finally completing and earning the chief's trust. Now before we enter the final stage of the video, if you've enjoyed it up to this point, please consider liking and subscribing for future postings. As I started the ritual, my mission was to find 3 different kinds of fish, and once I collected them, I transitioned to the next stage. Next up were some orange little fellas. As I followed them around, locating each of their positions, seeing that I had a giant croc above my head, and then finally grabbing the final one.
Okay, back in the water.
And on the final stage, I had to grab these massive blue fish, grabbing one after another, and then once I grabbed the final one, I completed the ritual. The easiest one by far. Waking up, I collected myself the 3rd piece of the toy, and now armed with this, I knew I had everything that I needed. I proceeded with exploring the brand new area when I stumbled upon a strange campsite. I went in to investigate, grabbing all sorts of goodies as well as a brand new map. And I couldn't help but think that this was the camp where I was supposed to start off in the beginning. After resting up for the night, I continued searching around and then finally spotted the village of Chief Kiwini.
Village. This is it.
Making my way down, I was met by the gates by another warrior that wouldn't allow me access despite showing him my toys. He mentioned something about Snake's Pass.
Pass.
But this sounded all too familiar, and then a cave led me straight into the beginning map. So excited to see my old camp that I stepped on something poisonous, but luckily I had the bandages to treat it. And then finally making it back to the little mud hut, and I noticed I was missing a brick, so I decided to finally fill in the final gap before completing the game. I also decided to cook myself some dinner and rest up before going to find Snake's Pass the next morning. And making my way over, I saw a new fork in the road and followed it, but boy was this nerve-wracking, and then making my way across the bridge.
Man, this place is freaking insane.
This place then had a bunch of tribal writing on walls that led me straight to yet another campsite, and I could safely assume this was the home of Chief Kiwini.
Chief Kiwini.
But I simply got turned back yet again and told something about moon caves.
Wait. Bachoya de Nagua.
I knew there was just one person to turn to, and since I now had the antenna, I can finally call back home.
This is Jake Higgins. You copy?
Jake, it's me.
Mia?
We don't have much time. Tell me how I can help.
Do you know what Amala Mocha could mean?
A moon cave? Does that make any sense? If anything happens, you'll manage on your own, right?
Sure.
Mia wasn't doing well at all, and I knew I was running out of time, so I went to inspect the ship and decided the next morning I would construct myself a makeshift crane. That way I could pick up the ship and seal all the damaged holes. So I got to work, completing my scaffold structure and then finally loading it up with all the stones needed. I was now able to view the bottom of the boat, and using some resin as well as planks, I finally sealed it up and dropped it down, deciding to grab myself one more good night of rest. The next morning, rushing back through Snake's Pass and starting to search around for all the moon caves, stumbling upon my very first one that allowed me to place down my artifact, and once I closed it up, revealed a gold-coated one. This was definitely a step in the right direction.
Sun from under the ground.
The next morning, starting the search for the second cave, and by that afternoon I finally found it, requiring another leap of faith, but luckily I survived. This moon cave, however, was guarded by some Yamahaka tribe members that I managed to get some amazing headshots. Boom! And then placed in my second artifact to coat it in gold.
Pass to the chief.
And the next day, finally tracking down the final cave and placing down my artifact. Now I was ready.
Past the last
So
try.
I rushed back to the guard, and by that evening I placed down my artifact.
Finally. Meet Chief Kiwini.
And then getting access to the chief's camp.
What?
Or at least so I thought. It's another ritual. But this time, things were a bit different. As out of nowhere came an arrow and hit me straight in the chest. I was going down.
Oh, what the hell? Was this all a scam? Chief, have you betrayed me? I hear footsteps. Oh boy, here we go again.
Out of the fog, armies of tribe members were rushing to me, and I now had to fight to save my life. I had no idea whether this was a ritual or real life, but I just knew I needed to survive this, one way or another. But boy, was there a lot of them.
Well, come on then. Is that all you guys got? I'm sure there's more of you. Blah, like that. Boom, you die as well. Oh, you want some? Come, there we go.
Just as I was getting overran, I heard a voice,
Jake, this way!
and I proceeded to running towards it. There were just so many of them still coming.
Look, there!
With no idea if the spirit meant well or not, I had to take a leap of faith and dive down as I started swimming through a cave, hoping I could make it to the end. But it was just too far. I was out of oxygen and started drowning.
What the hell? Where am I? Where are you guys taking me? My head hurts. What the hell is that music?
As I heard the tribal drums, I knew I was now in the camp of Chief Kiwini, and I could only hope that everything I have done up to this point had fully earned me his trust.
Chief, you guys throw a hell of a party. Hey, what's that soup you're all drinking? I want some. Ooh, this looks tasty. Here is nothing. Man, that's got a kick. More soup. More soup.
Waking up on day 100 with a massive hangover, I finally saw the mushroom.
So small. This will help me save Mia. Young Malu will revolutionize medicine. So many possibilities. It was worth all the trouble. It's Jake. Mia, do you copy?
I'm here. Do you have it?
Yes, I have the mushrooms. Wonderful.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the story. Finally a happy ending and sailing off in the sunset. Or is it? But that's all the time we have. A special huge thank you to our sponsor War Thunder. Be sure to click on the download link in the description to claim your bonus. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you to each of my Patreons. I hope to see you again soon, and here are some more videos you might enjoy.